Talking Gators here at the Voice of College Football on the eve of the opener with Florida hosting FAU. We got Dylan Denmark on the line. You can catch him right here on YouTube on his video podcast On the Mark with Denmark. And Dylan's also going to be hosting our Florida post-game coverage. So catch him after the game against FAU right here on the SEC channel. Dylan, how are we doing today?
We're doing all right. I think I got a lot more sleep than you did last night, but I'm doing well, man. It's college football season. Let's roll.
That's it. Rolling with the Gators means a little bit of mystery, though. No spring game, not finding out a whole lot, tons of new players. Of course, the offensive productivity and personnel explosion and all of that gone from last season. A new offense, Emory Jones, of course, heading up the offense. So what do we know about this team at this point?
Well, like you said, it's definitely a lot of questions. With Emory Jones, he's basically an experience without any starts. If you look at his stats, you would think he's played a lot, which he has. I mean, the guy came in his first year with Dan Mullen and got his redshirt freshman season when he played 4 games. And then he's played sparingly the last 2 years, just hasn't played a lot. He played mostly, the biggest snaps he played was 2 years ago when Florida played Auburn. And Kyle Trask, if you remember, he got hurt in that second quarter, and most people thought he tore his knee up and he was going to be done for the game. And Emory Jones came in, and it was plug and play, and they were ready to roll. There was no step back at all in that game, if you remember. Florida drove down the field and got an important field goal, and Florida beat Auburn in 2019, 24-13. But I'm expecting Emory Jones to do really well. I mean, Dan Mullen, that's his expertise, obviously. On the outside, replacing a lot, and the offensive line. You're replacing, or you lost 3 guys from a year ago. But the biggest question offensively is Dan Mullen's harped a lot on using 2 backs in the backfield. And if you look at really any position on Florida's team, running back is definitely the position that has the most depth. You look at Damian Pierce, he's going to be the workhorse. Malik Davis, he was there since Jim McElwain's been there in 2017. He'll be the 3rd down back. Naquan Wright, and then you have the 2 transfers, Lorenzo Lingard from Miami, the 5-star that came in last year, played a little bit, and Alex Bowman, the transfer 5-star from Clemson, came in this year. And Bowman is expected to do a lot in the backfield, not only running the ball, but also catching the ball out of the backfield. So that's offensively for Florida. Defensively, it couldn't be a lot worse than what it was a year ago. Had their defense been like 2 steps better, they probably would have made the playoff and possibly beating Alabama in the SEC championship. But since then, they've added a couple of dudes from the transfer portal to a lot from the interior defensive line, because Florida was not able to get any pressure, which didn't help the secondary at all last year, as if it wasn't good already. But added 2 interior linemen from Auburn and 1 from Penn State. And then you add that with Brandon Cox, who has played from Georgia last year. So it'll be interesting to see a lot of questions. And like you said, no spring game. So it's really just, we'll see what they have tomorrow night.
Yeah, so pretty much it was a 70% pass run ratio with Kyle Trask at the controls. And at times they just seem to completely give up on the run game. But now we're doing almost a flip-flop of run-pass ratio expected with Emory Jones, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Emory Jones, you're going to see a lot more quarterback power, counters, I think, tomorrow night. And like Dan Mullen has said, using 2 backs in the backfield, I expect him to motion a lot of those guys, to use those as decoys to help Emory Jones run the ball. And you would think, well, you got 5 running backs you could use. One would say, well, they should be able to run the ball. Well, they haven't been able to run block at all the last 2 years, especially under Dan Mullen, outside of his first year when he had Jordan Scarlett and Pirine. So, like you said, a lot of questions around this Florida team, especially on the offensive line. So you got a lot of great running backs in the backfield, but it doesn't really mean anything unless you have 5 guys up front that can block for you.
Got your old buddy Willie Taggart headed back to town, of course, former Florida State head coach, also at South Florida, now at FAU. They went 5-4 in a short season last year. Do Gator fans have any thoughts or any feelings toward Willie Taggart one way or the other?
No, they mostly from the few guys that I talked to, it's just a reunion. The last time that Willie Taggart was there was 2019. It was actually the last time the swamp was packed against Florida. Florida State and Florida won that game handedly. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of talk around that, and then also a lot of talk around N'Kosi Perry, the quarterback for Florida Atlantic. He played at Miami. He was the backup quarterback when Florida played Miami 2 years ago, so he didn't play, but he obviously knows the personnel. Todd Grantham's still the defensive coordinator, so that should be pretty familiar with him. But, yeah, I mean, there's been a little bit of talk around it. But, I mean, Florida's a 24-point favorite in Vegas, deservedly so. But, yeah, definitely a lot more questions concerning the Florida side than definitely Willie Taggart.
Dylan, as you mentioned, Florida being a 24-point favorite, they're going to win the game, and it will be a shock, and it'll be a whole other issue if they don't win the game. So we assume the win. But what does a good, productive, meaningful game look like that's going to make Gator fans feel better about their football team going forward?
Offensively, I'll definitely say the execution. What does Emory Jones look like when he's given the playbook? He's been given plays throughout his last 3 seasons, going his redshirt junior year. He's never gotten a start. See how he does with that. Seeing what he's able to do, throwing the ball. He's been able to do it a little bit. It's been usually third and short, and most teams will think he comes in and is going to be able to run the ball with a quarterback power. So really given the playbook. Execution, completing passes with Emory Jones, and defensively, I would just say, I know this sounds really simple, but just getting lined up. Last year for Florida, there were so many guys, it was you would have thought that they didn't practice all year. It was they would look to the sideline, their hands on the palms, and then the other team sitting their head on the goalpost because they just scored a touchdown. The other band's playing. So getting lined up, executing defensively, Emory Jones completing passes. What Florida's, I would say it would be really successful if Florida's able to run the ball. Because if you can remember, I can remember when I was a student at Florida, Florida played Townsend 2 years ago, an FCS school, and they weren't able to run the ball against that team. And like I said, in the last 2 years, Florida hasn't been able to run the ball at all. And if you can't run the ball against Florida Atlantic, a team that you're a lot more talented than, and South Florida team next week, who doesn't look that good from last night. Florida welcomes Alabama week 3. Now, I'm not going to be an expert and say that things can change, but if you can't run the ball tomorrow against Florida Atlantic and South Florida next week, I'm going to go with a chance that Florida's probably going to throw the ball a lot more than run it when they play Alabama week 3.
We set up the discussion as a mystery team, and I don't know that there's another team in the country, maybe LSU, that more people are divided on than Florida. Some people look at this roster, look at the team, and still think it's a top 10 team. Other people think they're going to take a large dip after last year's success, maybe go 7-5, 8-4, something in that range. I know they went 8-4 last year, but obviously broke through against Georgia, took Alabama to its toughest game by some standards, and of course won the SEC Eastern Division. I got Dylan Denmark on the line. Catch him on his video podcast here on YouTube, On the Mark with Denmark. Just search it right on your search panel there on YouTube. And Dylan is going to be hosting our Florida post-game coverage. So start out with Dylan immediately after the game, post-game on the SEC channel with Dylan, FAU, and Florida. Anything else on the Gators, Dylan? I guess we're going to find out a lot after tomorrow night.
Yeah, I also like to include, we'll probably see a lot of Anthony Richardson, the backup quarterback. Dan Mullen said in his coach's show yesterday that if you were to call Anthony Richardson, he redshirted last season, Gainesville native, that he'd be ready for the start. So I'm expecting him to play a lot of snaps in the second half and be really productive, and there shouldn't be a lot of drop between him and Emory Jones. So I'm expecting a close game in the first half, and then Florida should be able to pull it away in the second half like we saw with a lot of good teams last night. So it'll be interesting to see. You can always follow me on Twitter at Dylan_Denmark. That's DYLAN. I post all my content there. Definitely post this show and any of my podcasts. I had Leon Searcy on yesterday, former Miami Hurricane. We chopped it up talking Canes and Jags. But, yeah, Mark, I'm definitely excited. And, man, it's time to roll. It's college football, man.
Let's do it. Catch Dylan after the ball game on the SEC channel, Florida into FAU. Dylan, have a good one. We look forward to seeing you after the ball game.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.